Hi everybody, it's great to be back here again. Tomorrow it's been too long. Wow, let's get right down to our Torah lesson. This week's portion is parashat shimini, and I just want to focus really on one particular question. The question is, let's open the verse. It says, "Vahi b'yom shmini," and it was the 8th day. The question is, what day? Rashi right away explains that it was the 8th day of the inauguration of the tabernacle. As we all know, there were 7 days where Moshe Rabbeinu would take apart the tabernacle, put it together for 7 straight days. So this was really the 8th day. It was another day where, continuation of those 7 days, and now was a special day where Hashem's presence is going to now reside within the tabernacle through the sacrifices that Aaron is going to bring with his children when he has to sacrifice a sin offering and a burnt offering. And now the divine presence is going to rest within the tabernacle. But the question that we must ask ourselves is, why wasn't this day more defined by the Torah? The Torah knows how to say very clearly a date. It could have said what day it was, and Rashi right away tells us it was the Rosh Chodesh Nisan. It was the first day of the month of Nisan. That day received 10 special crowns. If you want to learn about those crowns, you can read about it in the Talmud, in Shabbat, page 87. So still the question is, why wasn't it defined right out? It was Rosh Chodesh. Why was it mentioned like it was stressed? It was the 8th day, and Rashi, of course, and Chazal teach us that it was the 8th day of inauguration. That's the question that we have to ask ourselves. And right away, if you look in the commentaries, I want to focus on the words of the Kli Yakar. The Kli Yakar is Rabbeinu Shlomo Ephraim, one of the great commentators who lived in the mid-1500s, early 1600s, who was born in Poland, and then he came to Prague, and he was eventually replaced the Maharal Prague to be the rabbi in Prague. We all love his commentaries, a great commentary. And he brings out a very interesting point, and he says something that the 8th day is so special in that it's special holiness within it. 8, as we know, is a number of holiness. 7 refers to chol, right? The 7 days of nature, the 7 days of creation. 8th day is above that. It's something that's very, very, reflects in something very, very spiritual, beyond the 7 days of this world. Is an 8th level. And that's a very, very high level. And he goes to bring some examples. He brings down a very interesting thing. When Moshe Rabbeinu complains to Hashem, he says, when I would go to Paro, and he uses the word in Hebrew, az, things are just getting worse. If we take the numerical value of the word az, aleph is 1, zayin is 7, 7 and 1 is 8. And Moshe Rabbeinu complains. He's complaining to Hashem, what's going to be? Things are getting worse, not better. Later on, Moshe Rabbeinu rectifies his complaint as we see, we just celebrated on the 7th day of Passover, when Moshe Rabbeinu sings, Az Yashir Moshe V'nei Yisrael Tashira Zot. Moshe Rabbeinu sings a song, the same word Az, meaning 8, the numerical value of 8, which Moshe Rabbeinu rectifies, seemingly having lack of faith. Right? What's going to be with Israel? Now we see that the Egyptians have drowned in the sea, Hashem has saved us, and now Moshe Rabbeinu rectifies by singing. So he explains that the word Az refers to 1 which rides over 7. What does that mean? We're going to develop that a little bit more now, is that 7 refers to the weekday, the nature, and 1 above nature. Who's the 1 above nature? Of course, it's God. We have to always see God in this world. Before we get to explain that a little bit more, we'll give it more examples how the number 8 refers to spirituality, and it's above nature. We see it in many, many instances. As a matter of fact, Rabbeinu Bachya ben Asher, one of the great rabbis who lived in the 1300s, the 1200s, opens up his commentary as well, and he talks about 500 years, whatever, before the Kli Yakar, and he explains that most things that the Beit HaMikdash and the tabernacle are built around is 8. And he gives some examples, the 8 garments of the high priest, and he brings down the 8 badim are the staffs that were carrying certain vessels, and he gives other examples. The sacrifice could only on the 8th day onward could be used as a sacrifice. And he talks about the 8 songs of the Levites. So he gives down other examples as well of 8. The Maharal Prague himself, if you look in his commentary on Tiferet Yisrael, also explains the numbers. He's very into explaining numbers, and he says that we see how 7 reflects so clearly the weekly days and days of creation and the nature, when we see the holiday of Sukkot, where we bring 70 different cows, which is again a derivative of 7, right? 70 parim, which are offered for the nations of the world. There are 70 nations of the world, and which the root is in the 7 nations. When Israel has to come to Israel, and there are 7 nations, right? We have to deal with the Shivat Amamim. And these 7 nations are rooted in the 70 nations, right? They're the roots of the 70 nations. And that's why it is fitting for the nations of the world to do the 7 mitzvot, the 7 laws of Noachide laws, which refer to 7. 7 again refers to the natural world, this world. But the 8th level, as we know on the holiday of Sukkot, what happens the last day? Chag Shmini Atzeret. And the 8th day is a special holiday called Shmini Atzeret. And we only bring one sacrifice. That's the one that resides over the 7 that we spoke about. Understanding that there's always one above the 7. And that's the above nature. And that's the Maral talks. He brings it down. And we can go on. The 8 days of Hanukkah, which represents overcoming all the most difficult challenges and the faith in Hashem. It's a huge rectification of the 7 regular days being above the 7 days. And there are many, many more examples. And as you study Torah and you look around, I'm sure you will find examples. But I want to quickly put this together and try to understand how do we relate to this whole thing? Well, first of all, the fact is that the 7th day after 7 days of inauguration, the 8th day comes along. The whole important thing to realize that everything we're doing, all the divine service we're doing in the tabernacle, in the temple, and everything we're doing, of course, is we are crowning Hashem, who's above in nature and above all this. We always have to see Hashem within the picture. And we always have to put Hashem within the picture itself, in the picture frame. And that's exactly what goes on in this world. We spoke of Moshe Rabbeinu complaining when the things were getting bad for the Jewish people in Egypt. Wow, things in the world, a lot of times when the picture is not complete, it's a puzzle. We have to put the puzzle together. But when we put all the pieces together in the end, we will see how it all makes one picture, and Hashem is above all that. And He's pushing in the events forward, and we have to find Hashem within this situation. And that again, it really is this whole concept of understanding the tabernacle and the Beit HaMikdash, right? The service of the Beit HaMikdash. Don't forget on Yom Kippur, when the Kohen Gadol would have to sprinkle the blood, he would say, it was the end Chaj B'Sheva, right? 1 and 7. 1 and 7 is again the 8 appears there, and that's the one day of year, the holiest day of the year, that the greatest connection, the holiest place of connection to Hashem. It's always realized that Hashem is behind everything, and that is represented in the 8th, in the 8th number, in the number 8. How does this connect to Heroes on Itamar over here? Well, we all know that it took 8 attempts to finally conquer, win over the Israeli government and return to the land of Samaria and Shomron over here. And we were finally allowed to return to our tents over here and build the land of Itamar after 8 attempts. That was very special, of course, for all of us. And that again appears Me'alat Tever, above nature, in the number 8. And there are so many more aspects, and I'd like you to all think about that, and send somehow, if you can think about more things that deal with 8, make a list of them and somehow send them to me. I'd love to. We should do more of a little bit research on this number 8 and see how it appears in our lifetime. Our rabbis teach us as well that in the end of days, the kino, what's it called? The neva. I forgot how to say in English. One of the musical instruments is going to have, Mashiach is going to have 8 strings on it. Again, referring to the level of 8. So we all, of course, our lives are to strive and to work so hard that we're going to see great miracles in our days. God willing, people of Israel will return to the land of Israel and come home. We build our Beit HaMikdash, and we be zocheh, with merit, of course, in building the Beit HaMikdash and seeing Mashiach in our days, God willing, as we all say, Bezrat Hashem. And this is the beauty, of course, of the holiday of Passover, which just ended, that we all experienced an amazing holiday. And now we've been counting, of course. We were counting 49 days until we reach the 50th day of receiving Torah. 49 days, again, is a derivative of the number 7, right? 7 times 7 is 49. And then on the 50th day, which is beginning the 8th week, Torah, which is beyond all that, we're going to receive Torah, which is beyond the nature. Torah is taking us out of nature. And it gives us an understanding of nature, right? It's so interesting. I came across this week, I was reading this book, a scientific book, We're mentioning, brought out the ancient Greeks and what they would believe in the universe. And they're always looking, they don't want to believe there was a creator, so they would look around, try to explain the world naturally. This is what scientists do and physicists do. They try to explain, it's important to explain the natural phenomena of the universe, but we always have to realize that there's something above all that, and which is guarding, and the guarding force above is Hashem, which is above nature. And that's the beauty, of course, of the Torah, and those who connect themselves to Torah and prepare themselves to receive Torah, of course, will be able to see that eighth level, understanding what we're referring to, because someone who's not there really, it's hard for them to understand. You have to be there to experience and know that this beyond nature, there's something beyond nature, and we have to always tap into that. Well, anyway, it's been great to be back with you, and let's continue our lessons and get back into our Torah, and God willing, many more good things to come. So I miss you all. Have a wonderful week. Shabbat Shalom, and we'll be in touch. Shabbat Shalom.